not working off a teleprompter. Wish I was, but I'm not. So I'll just give you a kind of a brief. We're still sort of responding to this, so it's not all cut and dried right now. We don't have a formal after action report. We're still putting it together, but the that we received a report of a person or persons on campus carrying what appeared to be guns about 2:30 today. And we have a process in place to respond to that. Every good university does. I mean, Austin had its incident a month or so ago. Virginia Tech, of course, still lives in everybody's memory. Every campus is aware of it. In fact, yesterday we had another tabletop exercise to deal with this, believe it or not, where we get and we have a group called the Critical Incident Management Team. That includes university police and administrators and communications folks, because communication is very important here. And trust me, after 2:30, the airwaves were abuzz with tweets and text messages and Facebook stuff and cell phones and probably cans and string. But as soon as University Police received that report, they responded, as did Huntsville Police, I believe, and a few others. One point I want to make is that there is great interagency cooperation. You know, the invisible boundaries of the campus and the city and the county aren't really relevant here. Officers respond as needed. There was great collaboration, great communication, great cooperation, as there has been with in the past in some off-campus actual shootings, where in some cases our folks are there pretty quickly, sometimes first. So you know, our process kicked in. Police responded. People on that team met in the president's office within minutes. Buildings were locked down within minutes in most cases. Occupied buildings. A good thing this was a Friday afternoon and we don't have a lot of people on campus. And at that point, we were getting all kinds of reports. We monitor social media ourselves. All of our phones were ringing. And I would say most of the information was not accurate nor relevant. I mean, it went from it went to the extreme, and we consciously make a great effort not to respond to that. When we send out a message on our system, we don't want it to be wrong. We don't want to have to correct it the next time. We don't want to cause a panic. And in this situation, it's an imperfect situation. There's going to be some imperfect consequences, and one of them is a lot of people are anxious. Parents, students, people who live in the area. There was a lot of unnecessary wasted anxiety out there today. My staff frequently tells me I take too long to answer a question, and when I say, well, let me give you a short answer to a long question, I keep going. But the good news today was that it was toy guns, toys, Nerf balls. And it was a group of students who didn't mean harm. The worst thing that I could be doing right now is telling you that somebody got hurt, and that didn't happen. So we do watch social media. I was telling you, we send out messages via email and text to more than 20,000 students, employees, faculty, and staff. And thus far, we've received some questions and critical observations. We expect that to happen. But I think we were in the 20 or 30 range out of 20-some thousand messages. So all in all, we had a good system. It worked well, and it reminds us of why we had that tabletop yesterday, why we will have an after-action review next week to see what we could do better. Any questions?
Yes. Code Flowers with the Estonian. You said that this, you first got the report at 2:30.
Yes, give or take.
Okay, but the first cat safe notification didn't go out till about 4 o'clock.
Yes.
Why was there a delay sending that out?
The main reason was that we weren't sure of the facts. Had there been a shot fired, it would have been real fast. But we were really still trying to figure out, one, did this really occur? Is it a prank? Was that a prank call? You know, we're going into that Piney Woods football game tomorrow, and the two schools do have a history of rivalry. And so we wanted a report from the scene that is from one of our officers who was in front of the, I don't want to call them perpetrators, the young people involved, and who had visual certainty of what it was they were carrying. And that was that Kevin, or was that Bitch? Officers at the scene. So, yeah. Once we had that confirmed, because apparently they were moving around on campus from one place to another, and so when we tracked them down, that was probably 3:30-ish. I'm being imprecise here. And then it takes a while. That's a customized message. We do have canned messages in the case that say we're closing campus because of a hurricane. Or actually, we have one of an active shooter on campus. Well, that didn't pertain. We didn't have a shooter. We had, that was one we hadn't conceived of. So out of the 20 or 30 or so canned messages, we had to write a new one. And that takes a few minutes. And we also discovered that that when something like this happens, because of social media, Twitter, cell phones, and so forth, we're going to be overwhelmed with calls. And so we will adapt our procedures to the point where that messaging is going to be handled in a location away from the activity and the action where that's their only message, that's their only system. I mean, their only responsibility at that time. So we waited until we were sure. Had there been a shot fired, it would have been a lot faster. We did the lockdown within minutes, actually.
So there was no malfunction in the system at all?
No, CatSafe works. Yes?
Should there have been some message going out to campus with a lockdown or pertaining to something?
I think I think there could be a yes to that. I think there could be a yes to that. There could be a no to it. What we, as I said, is if we knew there was firing going on, you know, it would have. There you don't have to ascertain the facts. You've got an active shooter. In this case, we didn't know whether we had an active shooter or a potential active shooter, whether we were dealing with real guns or Nerf guns. So, yeah, it could be a yes or no to that.
You're talking about wasted anxiety. You know, you don't want to send out this text message in case there isn't really something wrong. But wouldn't you rather be safe than sorry if the lockdown was implemented at 2:30?
Yeah. Actually, a good question, and the answer is yes, we want to be cautious about causing unnecessary anxiety. But if there's a real threat, trust me, things are going to happen within minutes. And probably not through CatSafe. That takes some physical time to create the message and hit the buttons and pick the list and so forth. At this point, if that were the case, it would have been everybody's cell, and there was a lot of cell phone activity going on. Chris, you had a question or observation?
Yeah, and my understanding was that there was very early on, the indication was that the situation with the quote shooter was actually a Nerf type situation, so they were just confirming
that was one of several, and so we knew that was a possibility. Another possibility was ROTC is right there, and ROC does a lot of color guard exercises, you know, and said they carry around the guns that they use in flag raisings and football games and so forth. But once that was confirmed, yes, we started getting the messages out.
You say you monitor social media and that. Once you saw, I mean, the rumors were going around.
Oh, absolutely.
Kids were going, I mean, it was going
Absolutely.
from shots fired to people dead.
Exactly.
The building. Would it have been easier to nip it in the bud right then and say, hey, everything's fine, we're working on it right there, there is no
Yeah.
shots fired?
As-
Stopping it right there instead of waiting an hour and a half?
Well, it was, and I'm just estimating now, but it probably was 30 to 45 minutes into it before we had our officer in front of that person. And we didn't know that it was safe. In fact, even when we had, the officer was in the presence of these students, police officers continued to search every building. You'll remember in Virginia Tech, there was a shooting or two or three. The really bad part didn't happen until 2 hours later. And so you don't immediately assume everything's okay. We were optimistic at that point, but we weren't certain. And we will not send out a message unless we are certain that what we are saying is true. And it may have to be somewhat vague, but we couldn't, without a shadow of a doubt, say, you know, everything's perfect at that time.
What is your response to parents who are keep calling and saying, we need more information?
Right.
What do you want to say to them?
I would have to say that in our after-action review that we'll have a lot more people on telephones next week.
So what would you say to students who now doubt the CatSafe system, its reliability? There are a lot of students on social
Sure.
media right now saying that the
Sure.
system failed.
I can tell them, I would say that if you get a message over CatSafe, you can be sure it's, pay attention to it. And if you hear rumors out there and you don't get a CatSafe message, it's still a rumor.
Okay, and how long does it take for you to send out a CatSafe notification? Is it instantaneous, or is it kind of like it rolls out?
It's not instantaneous. You have a couple factors that are involved. If it's a canned message, let's say we're closing because of a hurricane, we have a canned message for that. Yeah, and that's pretty quick. You don't have to go.
In the case of this message, how long did it take to go out?
From the time that it was written, 5 minutes.
What about calls? I still haven't received a call.
We elected to go with email and text message only. It was faster.
Okay.
The process of creating a call is another 10 to 15 minutes.
So there were no arrests made at all?
No.
I'm sorry, I was a little bit late. So
Sure.
Was it a game that they were playing? I didn't catch this part, I'm sorry.
I have hearsay on it. Kevin, is there much we can elaborate?
Hearsay as well is that they were involved in the student organizations were involved in a game of Nerf ball or
Yeah.
Do you know which organization that was?
No, I do not.
Do we know how many students were actually participating in this?
I don't at this. One of the officers does.
Okay. So no one's been obtained.
Yeah, it raises some interesting questions. For example, we do have there is a state law that prohibits guns on campus, on any public university campus, for the most part. But I don't think there's one regarding Nerf ball guns.
Okay,
So the question,
You're saying Nerf ball guns.
Yeah.
Is this a Nerf gun or Nerf ball, or?
Kevin, what?
I've heard airsoft, I've heard Nerf, I've heard so many.
Yeah.
It may be
Yeah.
a combination of all three.
Yeah, I too have not seen it. And so what you can see
Are
for
you guys going to be releasing a picture of this, or?
yeah, we could.
Okay.
Yeah, it may be not today, but and we'll have follow-up next week in which we will tell you as much as the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act will let us, and as much as those students are willing to. I heard again. I know I'm not supposed to speculate, but I have a feeling that I have some evidence. I have heard that the students regret very much the consequences of the Nerf gun activity.
So who received the initial report?
Police dispatch.
Police dispatch. And who was that report from?
Uh,
Did someone call?
Yes, someone called,
I don't know who called.
yeah, I don't know, but that's something we can get in after.
What was reported? Was it reported that a gunman was on campus?
Yes, that they had observed some people carrying what appeared to be guns.
And that was at 2:30?
Yes, give or take.
So the process was you manually called every liaison in the building and told them to lock down.
You know, that happened, believe it or not, like that. Once one call, once it went instantaneous. I was in a meeting upstairs in this building, got a call from Julia, who is assistant director. I immediately got up. I did not explain to the group the nature of the call. And as I was walking out the door, a worker in the alumni office was getting ready to lock the door. She'd gotten it fast.
So, you said this happened at 2:30.
I'm saying give or take.
Okay, so when were the buildings locked down?
Could have been 2:45.
Because I walked on campus at 3 o'clock and went straight on campus. No one stopped me. Went straight to my building, and I didn't even know there had been a report of a gunman on campus until I got into the building, and that was at 3 o'clock.
Well, I can tell you that many of the buildings were being locked down at about 2:30.
Was it a manual lockdown, or is there?
Yes,
is there a
yeah,
system
it was to individuals in those buildings, to those building managers.
Okay.
So I know a lot of them were locked down.
But some are locked remotely, like we were talking earlier.
Yes, we do have in some of our buildings, and by the way, that came up in our walkthrough yesterday, that we are going to make sure that we have a way to lock down quickly every building. And
Do you have any indication that this was some kind of a prank? Because it went viral pretty quickly, social media.
I don't know. I could speculate. My speculation is that it was an innocent result of carrying something that looked like guns. But we will do a complete review, and we will give you facts as we know them. We're still really in the process of getting things together. I mean, our phones were ringing off the hook.
Okay, the University Police Department, I know has a Facebook. I'm not sure if they have a Twitter page, but no messages were on either one. Isn't that what the purpose of them having a social networking page is, to connect with students easier?
Facebook does serve that purpose. The university has
It wasn't on the university Facebook page. It was on the
no,
UCD Facebook page.
it was. We put it up first on the homepage, the front page of the homepage.
The front page of the university.
Yes.
webpage?
Yeah.
And when was that put up?
I'm just guessing now, probably 3:30ish, give or take. And we have lots of Facebook pages. Alumni has Facebooks.
So, I mean, the purpose of those are,
Yeah,
to connect with
right.
students, but there was no connection made when all
Right.
this started happening.
No, we can learn how to use Facebook and Twitter more efficiently and effectively. I wouldn't claim that we had perfect command of all the social media at this point. And so, this day could have ended very badly. But the good news is, nobody got hurt, and we learned a lot. And we will continuously work to try to improve how we respond. It's just an ongoing thing. It's just perfection is never there. It's not going to be in any of your stories tonight, and it wasn't necessary. Well, maybe, no, perfection is never. There's something you work toward. There's something you work toward.
So, the last Cat Save test message went out on September 24th. How often are those tests done?
We test the entire system. That is all 20,000 and some students, faculty, and across those three platforms, generally, phone, text message, and email. And keep in mind that any one individual may have 5 or 6 We have a home phone, a cell phone, a couple of email addresses. And it takes a while electronically. I know, the speed of light is pretty fast, but it does take some time for all those messages to get out there. I mean, the CatSafe system is one way. I'll tell you something I learned from this, is that cell phone and person-to-person probably going to be faster than CatSafe.
Okay, so how often is the system tested?
3 times a year, minimum. Minimum. That's in the policy.
Okay.
3 times a year, minimum.
There's no specific schedule?
No specific. It's. I suspect we'll be testing it again within the next month or two.
Can you clarify one more time
Sure.
why, after going on lockdown at 2:30ish,
Yeah.
there was a 2-hour window, why the text wasn't sent out?
Yes, it was because we were still trying to determine what the facts were. At 2:30 we did. At 2:30 we had the initial report. I would say it was probably getting closer to 3:30 before we felt confident enough that we had the information. All the time in between there, well, not the first 15 minutes, but from 2:45 on, we were confident that we were not in a threatening situation. But we didn't know that for sure.
But wouldn't a lockdown, I mean, to lock down the entire university, wouldn't that warrant a simple text message?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what does that say as far as the communication within the university, since it is the utmost
Yeah.
importance?
There's probably a better way for us to have achieved that. I think what we did worked fairly well. Did it work perfectly? No. But we learned from this. We learned from this. We have a system and process. We exercise it. We analyze it. But I would say that even in Austin's situation, when they had their after action review, that they found things that they can improve.
So if something like this were to happen again, and a CatSafe message was not sent out, should students rely on social networking sources?
I think they do.
Or should they just wait until?
No. Here's my response to that. I think they do rely on social networking. The problem is a huge amount of it is noise in the channel that further confuses the situation. I would say of that blizzard of text messages and tweets and cell phone activity that went on, there was probably a lot more that was wrong. And I was going to, on that question of unnecessary wasted anxiety, I wasn't referring to our message. I was referring to that 30 minutes of wide open communication. But that's the nature of communication. It's not all perfect, and it's not all right. If somebody tweeted that there's been a shooting, something terrible has happened at Sam Houston State.
Should students take that seriously, though?
I would.
If they don't get a CatSafe message from the university, then it could just be more rumors.
Yeah, it could be.
So they should take social networking messages like that seriously.
I think they need to question them. I mean, somebody said that there's a shooter in the Central Mall. Don't go to the Central Mall. It might prove to be not true, but still, use caution. But let me say again, it's very important. We are not going to send out a message if we are not sure that it's accurate, and until we have some indication that we're right. I mean, our first reports were that something terrible was going on. Any more questions? And I will do stand-ups if anybody.
Can you spell your name, please?
First name Bruce, B-R-U-C-E. Last name Erickson, E-R-I-C-K-S-O-N. K, the Swedish K.
What is your affiliation with the university?
Director of Public Information or Communication.
Director of Public Communication.
Director of Communication.
And last question, is there anything that you would have done differently?
In 2020 hindsight, yes. And that is, we will look again at how we communicate. And I learned that the volume of calls from media is going to be overwhelming, and that you can't walk away from that. If you can't walk away from that, you can walk away from that and do cat safe. But in the meantime, we'd have literally dozens, if not hundreds, of media going, what the heck's going on? So we will look again at how we administer cat safe, and a likely outcome is that that's going to be done at a location that's remote from the situation, with not all those other calls coming in. Because the volume of calls was as I was there writing the text cat safe message, I had a couple guys, and really about every 30 seconds somebody came in. I mean, we actually had a line, and Julia had a line of calls on her phone. So we've got to move cat safe away from the media response.
Okay, so where were these students located on campus when they were playing this game?
My understanding is that, Kevin, was it over at
Primarily by the university theaters.
University Theater?
Okay, and
The first sighting was that they were someplace else.
who showed up first? Was it university police? Was it Huntsville police?
University Police.